Ratios and proportions. The easiest way to think about ratio is a fraction. With the ratios, the units must be the same, if it's just a single ratio. The units of the numerator must be the same as the units of the denominator. So keep that in mind, if it has units. So when it says write as a ratio, 2 to 3, that means write as a fraction, 2 over 3. 4 to 8, 4 divided by 8. That reduces down to 1/2, because 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 2 times. 12 feet to 6 feet, it's 12 feet over 6 feet. Notice these units cancel. 12 over 6 reduces down to 2 over 1, or just a 2. The 2 over 1 is probably how you want to think of it. Let's do a couple a little bit more difficult. 18 ounces to 3 pounds. 18 ounces over 3 pounds. Now we can't reduce because they're not in the same units. But we do know, or you might know, you may not know, but 1 pound is the same as 16 ounces. And so that must mean that 3 pounds is the same as 48 ounces. So we can change this to 18 ounces over 48 ounces. The reason why we want to do this is so we can cancel out those units. And then we're going to reduce. Just checking to see if 18 divides into 48, which it doesn't, but 9 will. But now we're going to 48. So let's keep on going. 6. 6 will go into 18 3 times, and 6 will go into 48 8 times. Did you catch my thought process? I tried the 18, then I tried the 9, then I tried the 6. I was counting down from the highest factor of 18. Now this next one, a lot of people miss it. 1.5 to 4.25. We want to reduce that. Watch this. Let's take the decimal that has the most digits after it, and let's move the decimal to the end, which makes that a 0, or a decimal at the end. That makes it 425 on the bottom. But if we move the decimal and the denominator 2 places to the right, we must move the decimal and numerator 2 places to the right, which makes it 150. And now when you look at that, we're going to see what divides into it. I know 5 does, but 25 does also. 25 goes in 150 6 times. We got 6 quarters makes $1.50. How many quarters make $4.25? See, you could easily have kept it like that and just thought of it in terms of money. Either way you want to do it. So if you think of quarters into $4.25, 4 quarters makes $1. 16 quarters makes $4. So 17 must make $4.25. That's kind of a neat little way to think of money when you're reducing fractions that may have decimals in them, even though we don't want fractions to have decimals. So here's one way to get rid of them. Move them. Proportions. Let's talk about proportions. A proportion is nothing but a fraction equal to a fraction. Their units correspond. What that means is either they're the same horizontally. I said horizontally and vertically together. I say it horizontally. Horizontally, or they correspond vertically. Now, cross multiplication, you've probably heard of this. Cross multiplying is the easiest way to solve in proportions. What that means is you're going to take the A times the D, which is Chris, and you're going to take B times C, which is cross, and set those equals. Chris equals cross. That's all cross multiplying means. So when it says solve for X and you're given proportion, here's how you're going to do. We're going to cross multiply. We're going to take the X times 11, then 4 times the 8, and set those equal to one another. And we're going to solve. X times 11 same as 11x. 4 times 8 is 32. We're going to isolate the X by eliminating 11 that's being multiplied, and do multiplication with division. Once you do the one side, you do the other, and there's your answer, 42 over 11. Let's do this one. Let's do it with as many or as few steps as possible. 7 times x is 7x. 8 times 15 is 120. Set those equal to one another. When you cross multiply, you're trying to eliminate the fractions. And let's divide to isolate the x, and we are done. That does not reduce. 7 will not go into 120. Now here's one question that represents the value of proportions. You can solve questions like this. And even though I know there's other ways to solve it, but let's use a proportion. Let's read it. If you travel 300 miles in 7 hours, stop right there. That's a proportion. 300 miles for every 7 hours. The question is, how many miles will you travel in 12 hours? Well, there's another fraction there. But here's the thing. We need the units to correspond. Remember what I said about proportions? Their units must correspond. So, before I even look at the numbers, I know that my units of my second fraction and my proportion, on top they have to be miles, on the bottom they gotta be hours. The 12 represents the hours. We don't know how many miles, so we call it x. That's our proportion. Now we're going to cross multiply. When I cross multiply, I'm actually going to ignore the units because they can get in your way. So let's just go 300 times 12, which is 3600. 7 times x, which is 7x. To solve, you divide by 7. And now I'm going to take out my calculator and type that in. And I'm going to round off to the nearest tenth place. We get 514.3. Don't forget the units. X were miles. And that's, I call this a unit proportion, because the units tell you everything you need. A unit proportion. So keep that in mind.